For roughly 2 centuries, the British Royal Navy dominated the world's oceans, a major factor in the British Empire spreading across most of the planet. Now, after almost a century of decline, British naval power is making a serious comeback, spearheaded by its next-generation Type 26 submarine hunting frigate. But it's not just the Royal Navy that stands to benefit. Norway has recently joined Canada and Australia in placing a major order for the Type 26. It's the latest step in a growing military collaboration between the UK and its Scandinavian neighbours, and a major shot in the arm for the British shipbuilding industry. It could also be a decisive move in NATO's efforts to control and deter Russia in the increasingly hotly contested Arctic region. Let's unpack what's going on and why it's important. From the late 17th century through to World War I, Britannia ruled the waves. The Royal Navy only really began to be unseated as the world's top naval power by the US during World War II. In 1892, the UK's share of global commercial shipbuilding was over 80%. And even in the 1950s, the UK was still building around a quarter of the world's ships. Then a precipitous decline began, accelerated by the post-World War II shift to mass production and welding techniques pioneered in the US. These developments gradually rendered the UK's smaller, older shipyards and labour structures obsolete, and by 2025, the UK was contributing less than 1% of global shipbuilding output. Now the slumbering giant is awakening, especially in the field of military shipbuilding. The UK's Type 26 frigate in particular looks like it could provide the stimulus needed to put British shipbuilding back on its perch as one of the world's leading naval powers. Perhaps more importantly, this next-generation ship is shaping up to be the primary component in NATO's defence against Russia in the Arctic as a high-tech submarine hunter. Norway's announcement in August 2025 that it will be procuring at least 5 Type 26 frigates from the UK makes it the 4th NATO member that will be fielding these ships after the UK itself, Canada and Australia. The UK is also currently in negotiations about further major naval procurement deals with 2 more NATO members, Denmark and Sweden. However, those deals reportedly centre on another of the UK's flagship projects, the Type 31 Arrowhead 140 all-purpose warship, not the Type 26. Nonetheless, operating the Type 26 will allow the 3 nations to take advantage of shared support, training and interoperability. Anti-submarine warfare in the North Atlantic and High North is inherently a team sport that will be considerably enhanced by the sharing of data, sensors, ship components and expertise. Likewise, the UK and Australia, both operating versions of the Type 26, will enable similarly enhanced collaboration within the AUKUS alliance in the Indo-Pacific theatre. The Norwegian deal is worth a reported $13.5 billion, the most expensive armaments program in Norway's history. Given that each ship is estimated to cost around $1.59 billion each, the size of the deal suggests that substantial extras such as training, ongoing support, and possibly weapons are included. There's also a new covered docking facility that will reportedly be built in Harstad in northern Norway to maintain the ships in partnership with BAE Systems, which is the primary manufacturer of the ships. These deal expansions would be entirely in line with the rapidly expanding defensive partnership between the UK and Norway. Indeed, the Norwegian and British governments will soon finalise a binding agreement in the works since February 2025, which will set the framework for a comprehensive strategic partnership. Once this agreement is signed, the 2 parties will enter into detailed contract negotiations with BAE for the final delivery schedule. These delivery arrangements are expected to form part of a series of industrial agreements between the defence sectors of both countries, primarily focused on the maritime domain and countering Russia's northern fleet. The UK is already one of Norway's key military cooperation partners, alongside the United States, Sweden, Finland, and Germany. In December 2024, Prime Ministers Johan Gahr Støre of Norway and Sir Keir Starmer of the UK signed a declaration on a strategic partnership focused on security cooperation. The declaration highlighted the intentions of both countries to deepen collaboration within NATO and the UK-led Joint Expeditionary Force, which also includes the other Nordic and Baltic states along with the Netherlands. Particular emphasis has been placed on the northern flank, countering hybrid threats and protecting critical subsea infrastructure in the North Sea. Previously, military collaboration between Norway and the UK mainly focused on regular military exercises in Norwegian territory involving the United Kingdom Commando Force, which includes the Royal Marines, the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force. The 2 nations have also been jointly working on countering Russian submarines through P-8 aircraft patrols. Norway also deploys its frigates to British carrier strike groups in the Indo-Pacific, which have likewise been trained for operations on the northern flank. This Type 26 procurement deal adds a whole new dimension to the 2 nations' collaborations. Norway's swift selection of the UK as a procurement partner during the tendering process, which also included France, Germany and the US, also underscores Norway's stated commitment to completely revitalizing and upgrading its military during the next decade. More importantly, it underlines Norway's ability and willingness to put its money where its mouth is. Earlier in 2025, NATO members agreed to boost their individual defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. Most are currently spending in the region of the previously agreed figure of 2% of GDP or less. Finding the money to ramp up defense spending is likely to involve a combination of tough austerity measures, taking on even more debt, and money printing, with the latter likely to fuel higher inflation. None of these interventions is likely to be an easy sell to populations who, according to the latest polls, already harbour near record levels of dissatisfaction with their governments. Norway, fortunately, is not in that position. As one of the few Western nations sensible enough to establish a sovereign wealth fund using revenues from its hydrocarbon exports, Norway has more than enough stashed in the national piggy bank to fund a major increase in defence spending. The size of these reserves was almost certainly a factor in Norway opting for the Type 26 over the French Frigate de Défense d'Intervention, or FDI, the other vessel it was considering. The Type 26 is a more suitable and effective choice for the role of high-tech submarine hunter, as we'll see a bit later, but it's significantly more costly than the FDI. A less flush customer may well have been compelled to go for the cheaper option instead. For Norway, the addition of 5 or more Type 26s forms part of a large-scale, ongoing modernisation effort. The plan includes replacing its entire fleet with 28 new ships based on a common hull design, and ordering 2 additional German U-212CD submarines to fully replace its aging Ula-class fleet. The plan predates Norway's NATO commitment to increasing its defence spending to 5% of GDP within a decade. It's part of a broader strategy to enhance deterrence against Russia that includes doubling defence spending between 2022 and 2025, and a comprehensive overhaul of its entire military by 2036. The purchase of the Type 26s also signals a widening of focus for the Royal Norwegian Navy, or RNON for short. The history of Norwegian's state-operated naval forces dates back to the Leidung, first established by Viking King Hakon the Good in 955, although variants had existed for hundreds of years before that. The modern, separate RNON was founded over 850 years later, on April 12, 1814, by Prince Christian Frederick of Norway from the remnants of the Dano-Norwegian Navy. Denmark and Norway had shared a common state from 1509 to 1814, and thus a common navy. At the time of separation in 1814, the Royal Dano-Norwegian Navy was in a poor state, and Norway was left with the lesser share, just 39 officers, 16 brigs and schooners, 46 gun challops, and 51 gun barges. It's a very different story today. Norway has assembled a small but potent naval force, built specifically to optimize operations in the confined and turbulent waters surrounding it. The RNON is organized into the fleet, the Coast Guard, and the main bases. These include Hakonsvern in Bergen Municipality, the main base for the Navy, Ramsund in Tjeldsund Municipality, home of the Special Operations and Marines, Trondenesfort in Harstad Municipality, the Coastal Ranger Command, Sortland Naval Base in Sortland Municipality, home of the Coast Guard, North Squadron North, and a couple of training bases. Norway's rugged, mountainous coastline stretches over 63,000 miles when including all fjords and islands, the second longest in the world after Canada. To defend it, Norway has chosen a navy built around smaller, more agile vessels rather than a few massive ships. The largest surface combatants in its current fleet are the 5 Fridtjof Nansen-class frigates, commissioned between 2006 and 11. These modern, multi-role frigates carry NH-90 maritime helicopters, anti-submarine torpedoes, and a mix of Norwegian and US missile systems, making them the backbone of Norway's naval defense. But the most potent weapons in Norway's arsenal are its fleet of small, fast, and deadly fast attack craft, or FACs. The backbone of this literal punch today comes from the 6 Skjold-class FACs, modern successors to the older Storm, Snog, and Hauk classes. Displacing about 274 tons, they carry 8 naval strike missiles and a 76mm OTO Melara gun. Thanks to stealth shaping and lightweight composite hulls, they can sprint at over 60 knots, making them among the fastest combat ships in the world. Operating in small wolf packs, they use Norway's fjords for radar concealment, striking targets with missiles before vanishing back into cover. The RNON has 5 mine-clearing vessels, including the flagship Nordkapp A531, a former Coast Guard patrol vessel modified and commissioned into Navy service in late 2022. The Nordkapp-class patrol vessels, from which A531 was modified, were the largest and most potent vessels in use by Norway's Coast Guard until 2023. They weigh 3,300 tons, are twice the size of the Oslo-class frigates, and carry a Lynx helicopter, but have fewer weapons and sensors. Although their hulls were strengthened to enable limited ice crushing and ice browsing, the RNON wasn't satisfied, and in 2023 began upgrading these ships to the new Jan Mayen class. The new ships are significantly larger, displacing just under 10,000 tons. With an overall length of around 466 feet. They can carry 2 helicopters and, like the Nordkapp class they've replaced, carry a 57mm main gun, but can be modified to carry a much wider range of arms and munitions in short order if needs be. Norway has also announced its intention to upgrade its Coastal Ranger Commando vessels to a new class. The new vessel should be able to stay at sea for up to a week and hold a crew of up to 6 personnel, along with a coastal ranger platoon and its equipment, or alternatively, a UAV weighing up to 330 pounds. The RNON is also in the process of procuring a new mine countermeasures capability based on autonomous systems, including 2 motherships. And now trumping all of these efforts is the announcement that Norway will be buying at least 5 of the brand new British Type 26 frigates. The $13.5 billion investment, as we mentioned earlier, is Norway's largest single military investment to date. For the UK, the deal is a huge success. It's by far the biggest British warship export project since World War II. Even better, the benefits will be felt well beyond BAE, whose book orders are now filled for at least the next decade. The Norwegian order of 5 brings the total order book to at least 34, 8 for the Royal Navy, 6 for Australia, up to 15 for Canada, and now at least 5 for Norway. Each ship is projected to take around 5 years to build, with BAE anticipating that from ship 5 onwards, it will be able to roll out 1 per year. Beyond BAE, production will also involve an industrial supply chain of some 400 companies, extending across the UK. So these orders aren't just beefing up security for Norway or NATO in general and going a long way to restoring the pride of the British shipbuilding industry. They're creating jobs, adding to the bottom line of hundreds of British small and medium-sized businesses, and lowering the economic heat that's been turned up on the administration in recent times. The only real problem facing the UK is managing to roll out all of the Type 26s that have been ordered. BAE is currently building the first 5 Type 26s, which were ordered by the Royal Navy. The production is taking place primarily at BAE's dockyards on the Clyde River outside Glasgow in Scotland, where the production of the Norwegian orders is also set to take place. The first of these ships is only due in 2028. The problem is that Norway specified that they must take delivery of their first ship in the same year. So at least 1 ship currently being built for the Royal Navy will have to be allocated to the RNON, most likely Ship 3, the HMS Belfast, or Ship 4, the HMS Birmingham. According to an independent Royal Navy-focused website, Navy Lookout, the biggest bottleneck is the fitting out phase in Scotstoun, where the number of people with the skills to complete the integration of complex weapons, sensors and combat systems is limited. They suggest that Camel Laird in Birkenhead, Ferguson Marine in Port Glasgow, and A&P in Tyne are the companies most likely to benefit from additional subcontracts. These companies would need to fabricate additional ship blocks to supplement the work at BAE's Govan facilities. BAE has already made a considerable investment to improve those facilities, but it's unclear whether the production pace can be further accelerated. From the UK's perspective, the Royal Navy desperately needs new frigates, and any delay to replacing the Type 23s with these new Type 26s as intended will be controversial. However, the situation is far from a zero-sum game, as the Norwegian Type 26s will be doing much the same tasks as they would be in the Royal Navy service, namely hunting Russian submarines in the high north. So overall, the strategic and economic gain from swapping places in the delivery queue with Norway for one of its Type 26s far outweighs the short-term loss to the UK. Hopefully, as BAE ramps up production and economies of scale start to kick in, these kinds of delivery issues will be smoothed out. With an ambitious delivery schedule, further such bottlenecks will become inevitable if they aren't addressed. Norway expects all of its ships to be delivered by 2035, as does the Royal Navy. Canada expects its first deliveries in the early 2030s, and Australia 2032. The Australian Hunter class and Canadian River class ships that have been ordered are heavily modified compared to the ships the UK and Norway will receive, although they still retain around 70% commonality. The standard Type 26 is a 6,900-ton, 492 feet long vessel designed for multi-role operations but specializing in submarine hunting. Its primary armament includes 24 Mark 41 vertical launch cells capable of deploying both air defense missiles and Tomahawk cruise missiles. The frigate's anti-submarine suite features the Thales S2087 towed sonar, also known as CAPTAS-4, which has a detection range of up to 93 miles, paired with the Ultra Electronics Type 2150 sonar. Each vessel is also designed to operate an anti-submarine helicopter. The River class incorporates extensive changes to enhance the ship's air defense and overall combat capability, such as the inclusion of the US Aegis Combat Management System, which is integrated with the ANSPY-7 radar, cooperative engagement capability hardware, and Mark 41 VLS shipsets. These modifications allow seamless integration with the US Navy and NORAD. The UK-designed CAM Sea Scepter missile system has also been replaced with the RIM 116 rolling airframe missile for point defense. Australia's Hunter-class frigates replace the Royal Navy's Type 997 Artisan radar with the Australian-designed CFAR-2 phased array radar, and also integrates the Aegis Combat Management System and the Saab Australia Tactical Interface. It also integrates the Lockheed Martin MH-60R naval combat helicopter and Australian-specific communication systems. However, both the Hunter and River-class ships still share the same computing backbone, flight deck layout, mission bay, HVAC, propulsion, power generation, gearboxes, steering systems, and propellers with the standard Type 26 variant. And perhaps needless to say, neither Canada nor Australia has opted to make any modifications to the Type 26's superior anti-submarine stealth features, which draw directly from the techniques used in nuclear submarine construction. With its superior acoustic detection capabilities and exceptionally low noise signature, the ship is designed to detect first, maintaining the upper hand in the underwater domain. Even the hull has been shaped specifically to minimize flow noise and surface interaction. It slips through the water quietly, dramatically reducing its acoustic signature. To achieve this optimized hull form, every transverse frame on the ship is unique. Each piece of equipment that could generate noise, such as engines, pumps, motors, and fans, has been either designed for low sound output or acoustically isolated. Almost every pipe and cable tray is mounted to the ship with rubber dampers to stop vibrations from transferring to the hull and into the water. Even the firefighting system has been designed to be quiet. The ship is fitted with several large pressurized tanks containing aqueous film-forming foam that avoids the need for much noisier pumps. That enables a small watch team in the ship control center to deliver foam to the site of a fire quickly and remotely use a ship-wide network of pipes. Add these stealth features to its advanced configurable weapon systems and robust interoperability with existing and future NATO integrations, and it's easy to see why the Type 26 is currently the anti-Russian submarine ship of choice. Undoubtedly, the Russian Northern Fleet is way less than charmed with these developments in its Arctic backyard. Let's just hope the BAE can deliver them on time and Britannia can again start dominating the seas. Make sure to click the subscribe button to stay in the loop with the latest developments in the naval world and military developments around the world in general. And thank you, as always, for watching.